You know, many of us have been down this road before, and we know where it goes. There are researchers who have excellent information on what CERN is really all about. The problem is, when you start talking about opening portals and demons and the awakening of Osiris or Nimrod or the Antichrist, people are going to want to know, how do you know these things if it is not as apparent to them as it is to you? So for those people who don't really believe in those things, the only concern should be if the events, the experiments conducted at CERN, are dangerous or not. You see, CERN knows that the most common concern among the public is that they may open up some black hole that sucks us all in or destroys the Earth. So they have taken measures to assure all of us that their experiments are perfectly safe. They are producing cosmic rays in our planet, and do you know what they have to say about the safety of this? The fact that the Earth and Sun are still here rules out the possibility that cosmic rays, or the LHC, could produce dangerous charged microscopic black holes. Duh. Are you kidding me? Their reasoning is that black holes and cosmic rays are all a part of nature. And because nothing has happened to the sun and the earth, hey, why not recreate what happens in space here on Earth? Better yet, in the Earth. Yes, they actually state this on their website. I'm telling you, you want to really know what's going on at CERN? Go to their website. Go to their YouTube channel if you didn't know they had one. Understand that this place is not just a laboratory. It is an institute, a school. They are constantly on the lookout for fresh young minds that qualify to conduct experiments there themselves. But not only is this place a giant institution, it is indeed something much more. You know, I think we all may have to take a little trip to CERN to see what's really going on. Are you down? Then let's go. I'm going to do something that not many people who talk about CERN do. And that is, I'm going to give you a larger view of what CERN is, so that you will be better able to understand what I'm going to present to you later. So one of the ways to understanding what CERN is today is by understanding what CERN used to be. At the end of World War II, a small group of scientists from France, Italy, and Denmark proposed the idea of creating a European physics laboratory to unite European scientists and share the increasing costs of research in nuclear physics. This idea was presented at the 5th UNESCO General Conference in Florence, Italy in 1950. And after the intergovernmental meeting of UNESCO in Paris of 1951, 11 countries signed an agreement to establish the European Council for Nuclear Research, or CERN. In 1952, the Council made provisions to build this laboratory in Geneva, Switzerland, part of which would be on the site that some believe stood the Temple of Apollyon, St. Guinness Pauli. In 1954, they began digging at the Marin, Switzerland site. And the very first particle accelerator built there was a 600 million electron volt synchrocyclotron in 1957. This machine was used to focus more on nuclear physics, while the newer model, the proton synchrotron in 1959, would handle the particle physics, which could produce beams of energy of 28 billion electron volts, a world record. The proton synchrotron's job from that point on would be to supply particles to newer machines. Now, they already knew that there were antiparticles, and they would make their first observations of this in 1965. If you look carefully, you will find that CERN always knows something exists before they actually find it and observe it. So, in '65, they exposed the antideuteron, a nucleus of antimatter composed of an antiproton and antineutron, which was observed using the proton synchrotron. The problem with this was that the detection process involved looking at millions of photographs taken from a bubble chamber or a spark chamber, which was very inefficient. But Gilles Charpak took care of this by developing a multi-wire detector connected to a computer, to later become the common detectors used in almost every experiment at CERN today. At the same time this is happening, they came up with the idea of using the proton synchrotron to supply two interconnected rings, 7 kilometers in length, where they could take the proton beams, build them up, and smash them together. Interestingly enough, this was also the first time a touchscreen was used on a computer. Now, the first of these rings was turned on in 1976. The Super Proton Synchrotron. Sorry, folks, but you gotta say that with a deep voice. This thing operates at 450 billion electron volts. You see how the number keeps jumping up? And despite the power of the SPS, they still needed more energy. They needed more speed. They needed a bigger ring. And they got it in 1988 with the completion of the tunnel for their Large Electron-Positron Collider. 2 years later, in 1990, Tim Berners-Lee would write the first browser and server software running on a NeXT or NeXT computer at CERN, and gave birth to the World Wide Web. In fact, they still have this computer on exhibit there. Now, in 1997, they decided that they would approve 3 new experiments to the Large Electron-Positron Collider: CMS, Atlas, and Alice. Pay attention to the names because they are important. The following year, in 1998, they approved the LHCb experiment in preparation for the Large Hadron Collider, and on November 2nd, 2000, the Large Electron-Positron Collider was shut down so that it could be rebuilt to become the LHC. In 2004, CERN celebrated its 50th anniversary. At this point, they've been smashing particles for over 30 years, and they celebrated their 50th anniversary with the inauguration of the Wooden Globe of Science and Innovation, a gift of the Swiss Confederation. This became a pavilion and network center for visitors. 4 years later, in 2008, after the completion of the Large Hadron Collider, a 27-kilometer double-ring accelerator, they fired it up for the first time, starting at around 4 trillion electron volts, sending protons through a chain of high-powered magnets with a force stronger than the Earth's gravity, at a speed just under the speed of light, and smashed them head-on at 4 different points along the collider, producing massive amounts of energy. Later, in 2011, CERN had become very successful in the study of antimatter by trapping it. In fact, using the alpha experiment, they were able to make and trap antihydrogen for 16 minutes, giving them plenty of time for study. In 2012, Atlas and CMS, which is short for Compact Muon Solenoid, or Big Freakin' Magnet, would observe the Higgs boson particle, another particle that they somehow already knew was there. You see, these discoveries grant them further ability to keep going, and to keep going bigger, faster, and stronger, to become what CERN is today. Everything that I have discussed up to this point comes from CERN's very own website. This place is very compartmentalized. All the scientists work in separate departments in separate buildings. Many of them don't even know each other, or what they even do in other departments. They sit there and have Google Hangouts with each other just to learn about what other scientists are doing around the campus. CERN even has a section on their website where they answer queries from social media about all the conspiracy theory type questions many of us have been asking. They, of course, deny everything. This is a gigantic facility with over 2,200 staff members, not to mention the 10,000 plus people who are on the site at any one time. A lot of these people are students, subcontractors, visiting scientists. This is a scientist's paradise. The technologies used at CERN are no less than amazing, from their flying detectors and hoverboards to their robotics. Oh my. So you have to ask yourself, why would people believe that CERN is doing something evil? I'll tell you why. Because CERN puts it out there. They are the ones talking about smashing particles together. They are the ones talking about making black holes. They are the ones talking about other dimensions. They let India put a statue of Shiva out front, and people are having rituals in front of the thing in the middle of the night. How did they do this? Where's security? And by the way, CERN assures us that the people involved in that were caught and dealt with. So they say. They passed themselves off as so squeaky clean, but then they turned around and did something incredibly stupid. On April 1st of 2017, the head of media relations and spokesperson for CERN, Arnaud Marsollier, wrote an article and published it on CERN's website entitled Ancient Particle Accelerator Discovered on Mars. Yes, they did. Basically pointing out that Olympus Mons on Mars, which NASA says is a volcano, is not a volcano, but a massive ancient particle accelerator 2,000 kilometers in circumference, about 75 times larger than the LHC. And the pyramids of Giza may have acted as a giant antenna with a control room underneath it to run the Mars accelerator by remote control. This is what he wrote. He literally called it a Stargate. What's strange about this is that the article that was written was nothing more than a joke. The article was updated on April 4th, stating, "Did we fool you? We hope you enjoyed our April Fool's Day story." No, I didn't enjoy it. What kind of psychopath writes this and then is allowed to publish it? Especially when they have had problems with their own citizens protesting their experiments. But you know what I think? I think this guy was not lying. Do you know why I think that? Because when you look at Olympus Mons and the 3 other large volcanoes in that area that are somehow equidistantly lined up with each other, you can see that they line up in a way that is exactly the same way the pyramids line up, exactly the same way Orion's belt lines up, and exactly the same way the detectors line up on the LHC at CERN. Is that coincidence? Is it also coincidence that there is this common 2-to-1 ratio with the names of these structures? You have 2 names with the same first letter on the 2 larger structures, and the 3rd smaller structure has a name that is the odd one of the 3. I'll show you. Al-Natak, Al-Nilam, and Mintaka. Ascrius, Arcia, and Pavonis. Khufu, Khafre, and Minkare. And at CERN, we have Alice, Atlas, and LHCb. Thanks, Marsollier, for pointing this out to us. I really don't know how this guy still has a job at CERN. But I guess they don't want the public to think that there might be something to the article that they still have posted on their site. Incredible. So when people think that CERN is trying to open the gates of hell, after all my research and then discovering their April Fool's article written by the head of press, I'm gonna say, yep, that's probably what they're doing. And now they are using their Awake experiment, a plasma cell, to further boost the power of the LHC multiple times over. Oh yeah. And you wonder why I call them madmen.